Hi, everyone, and welcome to Grit and Grace Leadership Talks with Kate Taylor. Myself, I'm so excited because I have another amazing guest coming on today with myself that I cannot wait to share with you all. So I've got the amazing Jamie Upton. He is someone that we have been in each other's network probably for a good 5 years, I would say now, through various leadership roles that he's been in. And something that's always stood out to me is that he has that grit and grace in his leadership style. And he's currently the Executive Manager of Out-of-Home Care at Creating Links, which is a out-of-home care child protection service in the not-for-profit sector. So I cannot wait to introduce him to you today. Welcome aboard, Jamie.
Hey, Kate, how you doing?
Hey, thanks so much for your time today joining us.
So good to be here.
Yeah, awesome. And I'm grateful where you've been a client of mine, you've been a candidate over the years. We've had a lot of different connections, and no matter where you end up in your career, we end up crossing paths, it seems. So thank you for coming on board and being on this podcast and video.
Yes, it's a small world. We keep bouncing into each other. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And obviously you are a very busy man. You have a lot of things you're juggling in life and work. So I would love to know if you could tell us what you do to set yourself up for the day for success. What do you do to start your morning routine?
Morning routine is very simple, and it starts with two very simple things: coffee and multivitamins.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
So definitely got to kick the day off with a coffee. But in all honesty, it's about getting up early. The early bird catches the worm. Don't waste your morning. Use your morning to get yourself set and get yourself ready and get the kids off to school and everything else. But for me, it's about getting an early start, freshening up, doing all those things that you need to as a parent first thing in the morning, and then being able to utilize some of that time, even small snippets of time, in regards to setting your mind, getting your mind in the right space for work, and checking in to see what you've got on for the day, so you know where you need to be, how you need to be, what you're entering into. And I guess for me, I use my time. Once I get in the car, that's my time where I really prep for work. So it's about understanding what I've got on for the day, who I'm going to be engaging with, whether that's meetings back with contracts managers, etc., etc. And then I pick my playlist to suit, if I can say that.
I like that.
To work. Music's very key for me to get me in the headspace and the place where I need to be getting ready for work. So, if the morning's been stressful, getting kids up and off to school, then I might pick a certain playlist that might be different, depending on what I've got on and how the morning's going. But for me, I have a fairly structured process in the morning. Get up, get my son ready for school, get in the shower, breakfast, etc., and then really prepare myself in that long commute, Sydney commute into work. So that's key for me. My commute's definitely key for me to go, okay, you get your head in the game and get ready for the day.
Yeah, I agree. That's my time too. Like once I get my daughter to school, it's like, all right, now this is my time. I've got to get myself in the zone and get into work mode versus parent mode. And sometimes when you've had challenging mornings with the kids, it can be hard, but I found definitely putting on a podcast or listening to a playlist, like you said, and it just gets me in the right zone and the right kind of mindset that I need to kind of start my day with success and not kind of bring that in, project that energy into my team that I might have had in the morning leading up to getting in. So I always try and encourage, even if it's just 5 minutes, like getting out the car and walking into the office, put on a song that boosts your mood is always a good way to kind of get you in the right state of mind so that you can show up and be the leader that you need to be.
And leaving your home baggage stuff at home, and being prepared for what, the out-of-home care space is a really complex, tricky space, and you need to be on your game mentally and psychologically. So for me, if I'm bringing residual things into work, it clouds my focus. It makes your day cloudy. And some days I need things to pick me up in regards to my playlist or a podcast or whatever I do in the car. Other days I need things to maybe bring me down a little bit too, because it's been a stressful morning. So, it depends on what's happening during the day and what happens, on that. I'm usually up before 6 o'clock. So it's a pretty long day, and it's a pretty quick start to the day, getting things done and getting into the office.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think, you've obviously had quite a journey and a career path in this community services, social work area. Could you tell us a little bit about your career path that has got you to being at the level you're at now? Because I know there'd be a lot of people listening or watching that maybe have a dream to be an executive manager of a not-for-profit one day, a CEO, GM, anything in that leadership space. But they're like, how do I get there? We can often look up to people like yourself and think, oh, it's easy for them. They've just somehow landed this job. And they forget that actually it took a long time to get there. I know with staff that joined me, they're like, oh, Kate, you do recruitment so easily and so naturally. And I'm like, yeah, because I've been doing it for 15 years. It's not just something that I've done overnight. So don't compare my start of my journey to start of your journey, to the end of mine. Like, it's a big difference. It's taken me 15 years to craft what I have developed. And so I think it would be the same for you. Could you tell us a bit about your career journey?
Yeah, it definitely did not fall in my lap. It takes a lot of hard work and a long time. And if I go right back to the beginning of when I decided, hey, you know what, I want to work with disadvantaged, vulnerable young people, I was probably about 18 or 19 years old. And I got to a point in my life and in my career where I was done with working what I classed as a bit of a dead-end job, labouring work and things like that, things where I didn't really see myself making an impact. And I got to a point where I said, I'm either going to go back and do some education around working with young people, or I'm going to go and become an accountant. Two ends of the spectrum.
Wow, very different.
And what I landed on was working with kids seems so much more fun. And that was literally the decision maker for me. And that's about 30 years ago. So I went to TAFE and did some training, etc. Worked in homelessness in Tasmania for quite some time. Then moved to Brisbane and did pretty much the same, landed in that out-of-home care space as a youth worker in residential-based care. And opportunities didn't fall in my lap just because they fell in my lap. They fell in my lap because I worked hard. They fell in my lap because, or they were offered, I should say. They didn't fall in my lap. They were offered because I showed initiative, because I if there was an extra shift, I turned up. And that's not to go, oh, look how awesome I am. It's not about that. It's about an in-ground work ethic that was built into me by my parents.
Yeah.
But so I went from youth worker to coordinator then I got offered a senior management role, basically an area management role in a residential based organisation for kids in care in Brisbane. And that really catapulted me into management-based and leadership-based roles at a more senior level. And then it's just hard work in a nutshell. And learning on the job and really, putting in the time and the effort. And for me, being flexible and not being willing to learn. I'm not somebody, and this might sound weird for somebody to say this on here, but I'm not somebody that's willing to learn. I'm different to that. I'm actually teachable. So for me, being willing to learn is coming into a role and saying, hey, I'm willing to learn, but I don't like what you're telling me, so I'm not going to learn it. I'm only willing to learn what sits with me. Whereas for me, I was more than proactive about taking my head to different spaces and, being stretched and working beyond my capacity and all those things. So for me, that's what's really catapulted me into the position that I am today. That attitude around work ethic. And 30 years of being a youth worker, being a coordinator, being a case manager, being in executive roles, and 10 years doing it hard as a foster carer with high complex teenage boys. So, I think that gives me a different, angle from a management perspective as well in regards to what I bring to a role and the different perspectives that I see in the role. But it definitely does not land in your lap. It's hard work. And some people are cut out for it and some people aren't. And again, that's about, I think in my experience, we see a lot of people end up in senior management roles and they're really good at casework, or they're really good at coordinating casework, or they're really good youth workers. It doesn't mean they're always going to be the best manager. And so I think it's about finding your niche and finding exactly where you want to sit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you've been able to move around from large not-for-profits to government departments through to smaller one that you're in now. Can you tell me about what does Creating Links specialize in the sector?
So the main program from Creating Links is our out-of-home care program. Foster care program, looking after 260 odd young people. But we also have an NDIS program. We have a family services program which work with vulnerable families. We have a counselling program as well that Creating Links also does within the community. But my part is around that child protection out of home care space, which keeps me pretty busy.
I can imagine.
to be blunt. But, I think after a while, this sector and the out of home care sector, working with, highly vulnerable young people. I say to people, if you took a DNA test of me, there would be something in there in and around, working within the foster care system. There would be something in there that you would be able to pick up. It's become a part of, I guess, who I am, which is why I spent a few years outside of this sector, and it called my name. It pulled me back in, and it's a round peg in a round hole.
Yes, I love that. And I think it's also acknowledging that, and this is something I say to candidates a lot, not every job is going to be your dream job. Actually, sometimes we need stepping stone jobs to get us to that dream role. And for you, you've had to go through several job changes, being willing, putting yourself out there, saying yes when opportunities come up, taking the step of faith to learn new skills, even if, you don't know it yet. And I think people forget that sometimes. They'll look at people that are successful and think, oh, they've just, got there. But actually, it's about being teachable, being open, and putting yourself out there in times where you say your colleagues are not. If you're someone that it's the manager needs an extra pair of hands on a weekend or for an event or something, putting yourself out there and saying, hey, can I help with that? And actually showcasing to the leadership team that you're someone that will go the extra mile and wants to learn and wants opportunity, rather than just expecting it to come to you.
Yeah, and that stepping stone piece was very, very relevant to my, last 6 or 7 years. So I spent 7 or 8 years in Cairns, working with different programs, running my own consultancy, setting up a not-for-profit up there to engage with young adolescent boys around mentoring and things like that. And then moving to Sydney for a change, it's like I had to start all over again. I had to go looking at, and I didn't just walk into a senior executive role. I came down into a coordinator role. And so then you got to start and you got to build those blocks again in a different space. But you have to be, central and have enough confidence in yourself and be, confidence, not insecure, to be able to go, you know what, it's okay. I need to take a couple of steps back because this is a piece where I get to where I want to be. If you're not confident to do that, I would have struggled in regards to getting to where I am today, and having the position, the privilege of being in the position that I am now. I wouldn't have got there if I hadn't have taken those jobs that I go, you know what, it's 2 or 3 steps backwards, but it's the means to the end, right?
Yes. Get your foot in the door, get your network up, get it on your CV that you're working now for this organisation in Sydney, so that people go, oh, okay, Jamie's obviously well known around here and he's got that connection and that. Yeah, I think it's so important. And I think sometimes, it might only be for 6 to 12 months, but, getting that foot in the door, And I think the best leaders, that I've found in the sector are the ones like yourselves who have worked your way up from the ground up. And, you're not afraid to get your hands dirty. You're not afraid to jump in. And like if a coordinator's off sick or if something happens, even though you're in a senior executive manager role, it's not, obviously you can delegate, but at the same time, if you had to, you could jump in and help. And so I think that's the best leaders and managers I've met that are able to do that. And there's people that have worked their way up in the sector to be able to get to where they are so they can understand every position in their business. So when a support worker comes to you and says something, you hear of something, you're like, well, no, that's not how it works because I know, I've been there. And it's the same with the team leaders when they try it on and be like, oh, well, I didn't do that because I didn't have time. And you're like, well, you do have time because we've set up a system for you to do that. Things like that. The case notes aren't up to date. It's like, well, we have a platform for that, so you should be doing it. And so one, it gives the accountability, but two, it also shows them that maybe they could be like you one day, that you have worked your way up from their level up to where you are today, but you've put in the hard yards and done the work. So
I think too, it breaks down the Eiffel Tower, the sort of syndrome where it's like, oh, I'm sitting up in the tower and you'll just do as you're told, and
yes.
I have no connection back to our business on the ground.
True.
That's true. And that directly, that's my leadership style. I directly default back to a servant leader style where if I'm not prepared to do it, why should anybody else do it?
Exactly.
So if I see something that's not getting done and everybody else is, on the floors like really busy, then I don't mind emptying the shredder bin.
Yes.
I don't mind doing that. Why? Because it shows that I'm,
it's not beneath
I'm not in a position where that role is or that task is too far beneath me. I guess it keeps me grounded. And it I think it helps with that relationship back to senior management from staff that we've all been under somebody that's like, oh no, you do that, it's your job, not my job. I'm not touching that. It instantly creates a barrier back that senior management actually don't understand what we do.
What we're dealing with. Yeah, and I always say that to my team as well. Like, I'm willing to do every role in my business. Anything that I ask you to do, I can do it myself, but it's not necessarily the best use of my time. So it's about going, like I can do everything you're asking me to do. But like I said, it's about finding what is the best use of your strengths and my strengths and making the business run well. And that really builds a lot of trust, I guess, and respect from my team because of that. I'm not I don't mind going down to the post office to send a pack out to a client if I have to, just as much as I'll get one of my staff to do it. So or doing the coffee run.
That's that grit and grace piece that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Because the grace piece is, it's okay, I've got this. You continue doing what you're doing. I'll pick up this, if I can say, meaningless task. I'll do this, and that way you're not disrupted. And you can continue with your task. But the grit part of that is, actually, this is your job.
Yes.
When it gets to the point where it's like, I'm not going to do your job for you. I will do whatever I can to assist you to do your job, but don't ask me to write your case plan.
Exactly.
Because that's actually your task. That's the gritty piece. It's that tough conversation. But the grace piece is then going, okay, how do you do that best? How can you free up time to make sure that you do that? Actually, I can take this off you so that important task gets fulfilled. That's that balance. And if you err to grit or if you err to grace too much, you either become a micromanager or a pushback person, or you become a walkover.
Yeah, exactly.
So that balance is that's the key piece. And I think we've all seen people that have floated either way. And don't get me wrong, there's times in my role where it's like, no, it's grit. It's got to, that's what's got to happen. This is what needs to be done. You need to get in and do it, and it needs to be done by Friday. The other piece is, I know you're super busy. Just leave that, park it. I'm going to pick that up for you so that you can get on with those other important things.
Yes.
Getting that balance right is
teamwork. Yeah, exactly. No, I love that. You've identified that so well. And tell me about, obviously in the sector, the biggest thing I hear is that people worry about burnout, especially in the child protection sector. That kind of like you're like you said, burning the midnight oil a lot of the time as an executive manager. How do you look after your own well-being and mental health and encourage your staff to do the same?
this is not something that's learnt overnight.
Okay.
This is something that you learn through sometimes trial and error. And sometimes you get it right and sometimes you don't hit the mark. But for me, 30 years has taught me one thing in this industry, and it's about you have to know your priorities. And you have to know what is the number one thing, the number two thing, and the number three, et cetera, et cetera. And for me, it's about understanding and balancing what those priorities then look like. So work is important. If we drop the ball at work, there's a direct relation back to kids' well-being, safety, outcomes, etc. It's not just it's not the same as going, if I drop the ball, I don't sell that shirt. It's the consequences can be much greater.
It's
so
huge.
Our priority is obviously very highly focused on what we do.
Yes.
But if it comes down to it where the rubber meets the road, my priorities are actually not work. My priority is about family, about friends, about quality time with the people that are around me that assist and support me to be the person that I am. Work can never consistently come before family. Work can never consistently come before the good, positive people around your life. They are the piece that keep you stable. Or for me, that's the piece that keeps me stable.
That's what gets you grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's ensuring that when I get home, my hour and a half drive home, when I get home, I'm not bringing work through the door. When I get home, I'm able to check out of work and be present. It's about, again, using music. I use music to de-stress in the car. I'm using my time in the car on the way home to contact friends and family, and I've got people that I debrief with and get all that rubbish off your chest. The other thing for me, so that's number one. That's key. If you've got to have your priorities right. The second thing is get yourself a side hustle. Get yourself a side hustle or a hobby.
Yes.
You cannot be only work and family, work and family, work and family. You need something that 100% disassociates you from your work. 100% that gets your head out of that and puts you in a different space. So for me, I've got a couple of things in and around, friends are, if I can say, part of what I would say, my side hustle and hobby. So I have friends that I connect with, but I have other things that I do outside of work that get me out of workspace and thinking about work. Generically, it revolves around fast cars and motorbikes.
I love that.
Within the speed limit. Just want to make
within the speed limit with the safety.
Do not speed.
Yes.
So I have things on the outside where, as a car enthusiast, I engage in restoring cars and things like that. That totally divorces me from my work. Gives me clear headspace. And then when I get back to go to work on Monday, I'm ready. I've had my 2 days on the weekend where I've been able to get out of headspace and go from there. The tricky bit currently for anybody is the work from home hybrid model.
Yes,
when you work from home, you have to be very conscious that when you walk out of your office space and close the door, you're shutting off
mentally.
For me, I think that's a really tricky space for people currently.
Yes, we're blurring the lines
because our work becomes home, and our home becomes work.
Yeah,
for me, it's very important to have a space where I work. Yeah. And in that space, the only time I go in there is if I'm printing something out personally.
Okay.
I don't really go into that space outside of work hours because that's work. So I think that's really key. But set your priorities, know what your priorities are. Work cannot be 100% of your life. That's called the road to burnout for me.
Okay.
Get good, positive friends and family around you to support you and ensure that you have that. And have a hobby. It might be gym. It might be whatever your thing is.
Yes.
Find a hobby that takes you outside of your work, where you can emotionally disconnect and tap out from work and just enjoy life.
Look after yourself. Yeah, exactly. I love that. And something that when I was in the heart of lockdown, I remember my psychologist told me to actually, like you're saying, when you're working from home, it was like there's no like break in your day because it was like everything's blurred into one. And I remember the big tip that he gave me was where you sit to do your work, even if it's at the dining table, sit purposefully somewhere different to where you would sit and eat your dinner with your family, so that your brain knows this is work time, this is social family time. And the same with like sitting on the couch. Like, don't sit on the couch where you'd sit and watch TV and relax to have a work call. Sit in another part of the couch that you don't normally sit on, so that your brain can separate the two. And also I found that morning exercise routine, like getting up and doing a walk before I started my day, it felt like I was going out and then back in again, like, okay, I'm starting work now, even though I was still just going home.
Otherwise you put the collared shirt on, have your pajamas on, and sit in front of a screen, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I would dress for success every day, like getting up for work. Like I would go to the office. I would dress up at home because I knew I'd have Teams meetings and stuff. And yeah, I know people joke about wearing your activewear or your pajamas on the bottom, but actually I feel like then you're kind of a bit lazy. You're not really like in the right zone and the headspace for work. I think getting dressed up every day just gives me that kind of like process of going, this is work time.
My family don't know if I'm working from home or working in the office by the way I dress.
See, that should be
although some days when I don't have too much on, I'll just wear a t-shirt. But
fair enough.
That's not so bad. But when I was working from home, I worked from home probably 85% of the time for 2 years. And I didn't work in my pajamas. I always got changed. That's about me, and it's about that. It sort of replaced my drive to work. It's about, no, I'm going to work. Let's get centered. Let's get focused. Otherwise, I'm just like, no.
Bit lazy. Yeah. I know. And I'm like a highly motivated person, but even I was finding if I dress down on the work from home days, I'm not as like focused and productive as my days when I come into work. So, I think it's getting that balance. Everyone's different, but that definitely makes a difference to me too.
And then on the flip side, it's always good to have a casual day Friday, in the office as well, where you can just tone down a little bit and be a little bit more relaxed. But
someone told me like this concept that one workplace was doing is called dress for your day. So if you're having a day where you're not having any like Teams meetings or anything like that, you can wear jeans or dress down. But then dressing for your day when you've got other like interviews like this or anything like that happening, you dress for success, dress in your power clothes. So I thought that was a good concept.
We were literally talking about that this morning around some of our therapists and clinicians talking about, don't turn up in your, I'm a corporate clinician suit if you're going out to see young people. Dress down.
Exactly.
Dress down, you need to engage at whatever level you're engaging at is the way you should present.
Yes, that's great. And so tell me, just to finish off, what is your favorite quote that you think showcases that grit and grace in leadership in life?
I don't really, I don't really have too many quotes that I live by. Okay. There is a verse in the Bible that says, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that you may have life and have life to abundance. So I'm going to give you my take on what that means, and it's probably a philosophy that I live by. And it's about, you need to grab life with all that you have.
Yes.
If there's an opportunity, you need to take it. If a door opens, walk through it. Don't belt the door down. Don't try to break the door down. If it opens up, walk through it. Enjoy life, marinate in life, live life, love life. But also live it with integrity.
Yes.
Treat people as a human with dignity and with respect. And so be graceful in the way that you do life, but be true. Because and then the flip side of that is we always know that there's people that are prepared to come and steal something from you. The people come around you, try and, steal your dream, or they try to steal your aspirations, or they try to rob you of your positivity. You need to be aware of that. And so the grit piece comes into sometimes your dreams and your aspirations, you actually need to cling onto them with everything you have. Don't let the thief come and steal it from you. If somebody's coming to steal your dream, you better hang on. And I say to my son, you better get white knuckled on those things. So you better cling on really hard and your knuckles better go white because they're important. And so for me, that whole philosophy of living and I guess of the way I live and do life is about it's underpinned by the belief that whenever somebody has connection with me, whenever somebody has anything to do with me, whether it's a video call, whether it's a bump in the, we bump into each other in a corridor, they should walk away feeling better.
Yeah, I love
They
that.
should walk away feeling like they've got more energy, or they've been inspired, or they've been encouraged. I sort of look at it and go, God help me that they walk away feeling depressed, or they feel less motivated, because what's in me should be transferred onto them in a positive space. So for me, that's sort of where it's more a life philosophy than
I love that.
saying. There's so many sayings, there's so many quotes, and you could quote 1,000 of them, but I will leave with this one, and it's a bit left of center, and it's a lyric from Bob Marley, and it says, "It's a foolish dog that barks at the flying bird." And for me, that just means sometimes we spend so much time chasing things that aren't important, chasing things that are absolutely, at this point in your life, at this stage in your life, is not attainable. It may be if you go through those steps.
Yes.
You have to catch the bird that's on the ground before you'll ever get the chance to catch the bird that's flying in the air. A dog will not catch a flying bird because a dog can't fly.
That's true.
So for me, I know it's a silly lyric, and there's more to it in the song and everything else. But for me, it's just that piece of, you have to pick your battles. You have to pick where you put your energy, because sometimes we throw all our energy into one thing, and it's not the thing that we need to throw our energy into, because we've become unfocused. So for me, that is something that sits and keeps me somewhat stable, and if I can say, I use this because it's sort of like your backbone. It keeps you aligned.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah, you've been able to pull like a lyric of a song and a Bible verse and turn it into a life lesson. I just love that. You're amazing. And yeah, I love that perspective on life. And, don't try and run before you can walk. Like, each thing has its time, and, appreciating that, and don't try to do more than you need to. Do you know what I mean? Do what you got to do each day, and then live it with purpose, and make life easier for other people. Like you said, make a difference in some way, whether it's interaction on social media, whether it's face-to-face and like a colleague or friend. And yeah, reach out to those that, as you think of them, those friends and family that might be having a rough time, and showing that you care. And I think that's so important. And yeah, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed our chat, and I'm sure other people will too. And you really go after life with determination and grit and grace. And so thank you for being a guest on my podcast and my video. And if you want to connect with Jamie, you can connect with him on LinkedIn, Jamie Upton, or on the Creating Links website. You can reach out to him. So yeah, lovely to have you on board, Jamie. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. It's been a pleasure.
Talk to you soon.
Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
Thank you all so much for being on the video with us today live. We are going to be launching these every Wednesday at 12 o'clock across all social media platforms and our YouTube. So please check in, and thank you so much for being involved. We love to hear from you too.